morning. Good morning. Working. Welcome to my session this morning. I hope every one of you made a good use of the 6 vouchers you had yesterday evening, and you feel relaxed now to get easy into the morning with the 30 to 45 minutes talk I'll do. My name is Ulf Bonfert. I'm running the product group for enterprise commerce in SAP Hybris. I joined Hybris 11 years ago, and back then we were 100 people startup company out of Munich in the e-commerce space, and developed from e-commerce to omnichannel commerce, and have been acquired by SAP in 2013. And meanwhile, we really covered the full front office space, so commerce, marketing, sales, services, and also a customer experience layer above. What I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to focus on our enterprise commerce solution. And I want to explain a little bit the journey we have done with our enterprise commerce solution from being an on-premise solution primarily in becoming a cloud solution with the same stack. So looking back where we were coming from with the software which has been developed mainly at its core in the 2000s, we were developing a servlet engine-driven solution. So Tomcat was the runtime environment, and what we were delivering to our customer was a zip file with our releases. And usually the model was like this. Our product was seen as a framework, and usually a system integrator hired by our customer was taking our zip file, was doing an implementation project with zip file, was adding customizations to the tooling, and then the customer was also in charge of operating or having a partner operating the solution on-premise for themselves. We were, from our perspective, very successful with this solution because we had this option to really customize. At the same time, the APIs we were delivering to the SIs to customize were essentially all the Java classes, right? So you could hook in at any point of the solution and customize the solution to hell, which had its benefits in the times. Now when you move to cloud, the things are becoming differently, right? So there are different requirements to solutions. So what we have seen in the last years were some challenges we were faced with. So how do we move this on-premise solution to be a cloud offering, which was okay from a starting point perspective because our solution is pretty lightweight. We always wanted to have it running on a laptop. You can just download it, and 30 minutes later it should be running, even though it's an enterprise size solution. It just required the servlet engine, so it had all the prerequisites to also move into the cloud. What we were also facing in the last years, especially with global business, and if you look at business in China, is some requirements around scaling, right? So in China, if you talk to customers who are doing 20 million orders a day easily, then you know that your commerce solution really has to face different requirements and has to fulfill different KPIs when it comes to scaling. And what we still see is commerce is not commoditized yet, right? You still have customers who want to do customizations on top of the solution. Though they ask for SaaS commerce, but they want to do customizations. So how do you bring that conflict in place when our experience was, as soon as you have done heavy customizations, you are kind of cutting your way off from a seamless upgrade path to the product because compatibility issues might come up. So those were the challenges as a starting point for us to come up with a plan how to maybe solve all of this with our new solution. So first thing, cloud readiness. What did we do to get the product into the cloud. We embraced Docker, so it was clear we need to have a container technology and support officially a container technology with a solution, so that we have a proper abstraction layer in place and can be operated easily on different infrastructure as a service offerings. And from a cloud orchestration engine perspective, we decided to support Kubernetes. We had some tries with Cloud Foundry in other spaces of the company, and we have seen that Cloud Foundry is not the best choice for this particular solution, and went with Kubernetes. That was a decision done back last year, beginning of last year. And if you know that space, that is not yet final who is going to win the race on the cloud orchestration engine business. So it is an important thing to make there the right choice, so that whatever you are choosing is really going to be supported. So we have a good feeling that Kubernetes is going to probably become the de facto standard. And if we see nowadays, Azure is even having a managed Kubernetes offering. Meanwhile, Google Cloud Platform does the same. AWS is about also to launch a support for Kubernetes. And we at SAP, with our cloud platform, are also working on a Kubernetes offering. So that brought us to a level where we have an abstraction down to the infrastructure layer. So whoever is offering to us a Kubernetes environment, we can be compatible with our solution and be operated and run on that environment. So what we have done then, with the support of Kubernetes, we build an automation tooling around our solution. An automation for operations, which we also expose to our customers, right? So our solution is our product, when we release it, we will build a Docker image and deliver this Docker image in a repository. The customer will have access to a cloud portal, and there we can also have the customer metadata stored specifically to the customer. Then in every availability zone, we will have a process engine, a cloud automation engine, which can hold then specific meta information for the environments of a customer. And the customer gets in his own customer zone then the ability to spin off dev, staging, or production environments. But what we also deliver to our customer, a builder environment. So that is a continuous integration appliance for the customer, so that the customer can point to a Git repository where his customizations are done, and then this builder will take care, by using the layering functionality of Docker, to put on top of the product image the custom code and create a Docker image which is combining the product code and the customer code. The advantage by us providing a continuous integration environment is also that we can put into that build environment testing, we can do security checks, we can do performance benchmarking, and we will try to get all the experiences and the best practices we gathered over the course of 10, 15 years of commerce worldwide. We will try to put those in automated testing, so that at the end of the day, we will provide really a good guardrail for our customers that they are doing the right thing with their customization, and they are not detrimenting their business at the end of the day with the custom code they are building there. And once they have a proprietary Docker image here in the repository, in the cloud portal, they can pick and choose from those Docker images and deploy whatever version of their Docker image to whatever of those environments, just by the click of a button, right? So by that, we have also provided to the customer full control of this environment, even though the environment is delivered to them in the cloud. And of course, things like logging, monitoring, will all be exposed to the cloud portal, so that the customer and the SI on behalf of the customer, we always have full control and full transparency on what is happening down there in the environments. And this is how the cloud portal is looking like. So we are looking at the moment at the development environment. You can see here at what custom code branch it is pointing and what version of the hybrid commerce solution is selected. And of course, by using Kubernetes, we are exposing things like scale up, scale down, at the moment manually, but eventually we will also introduce predictive machine learning for scaling up and down, so that elastic scaling is really done on demand and based on usage patterns of the solution. So a full end-to-end offering of commerce in the cloud. What we have solved by that is we have kind of streamlined the way how we operate the solution, and we simplified also the way how to test and to customize the solution. But it's still custom code based on accessing Java APIs, so it still can be that with those customizations you are doing there, you can't do a seamless upgrade of the underneath product, because the compatibility has to be tested and your custom code has to be verified if it's still running on new versions. But we did a big step, right, with simplifying also this testing, because with a click of a button in your dev and stage environment, you can replace underneath your custom code the version of the product and have a quick go on the testing. Of course, microservices is still, for us, then a paradigm we are looking into and we want to use, because the starting point for us is a monolithic application for commerce. And we had the last 3-4 years, we have done big investments into microservices and had our learnings, and at some point I found this statement from Martin Fowler, where he was saying in this article that he has seen so many microservices projects fail, who started really from scratch with just a microservice architecture. And his recommendation out of that article was to start with a monolith and then peel off at the edges services and convert those into microservices. And I'm also a strong believer that this approach is a better approach, looking at the fact that not a lot of companies can also afford to instantly move completely away from a monolithic architecture they have and just replace everything with microservices. I'm really believing that a hybrid model is more what we are aiming for. So what we have done, according to this statement from Fowler, is we were looking at our monolithic application, and we were considering how to deconstruct it, because yes, of course, there is a choice to run the full solution as a monolith. And by the way, that has sometimes advantages, right? Because you are just operating one cluster. You might have, for simplicity reason, easier release cycles because you have all of it under control. But sometimes it's you need more agility and you want to be more fine-grained in features you want to release out there. And yes, we are also looking at Amazon as a competitor who is doing kind of 50 million releases a year. And how can we bring our customers in a position that they can go also that direction to have more often releases? So we decomposed, and we had two strategies there. First strategy is to have functional islands extracted of the monolith and make those functional islands available as a standalone service. One example being our commerce solution was always product content management driven. What we do now is we are offering the product content management as a standalone service, right? So we are releasing this year a product content cloud, a true SaaS solution just for the product content management piece. Order management, same example. You can extract order management and run order management standalone. And then you might just stay with the core commerce piece. So that brings, again, one additional level of flexibility, because then you are really aiming at particular functional zones with your releases, and those different systems are loosely coupled, integrated, which brings a lot more operational flexibility. One other important aspect is that a lot of the changes and the customizations are happening at the storefront side, right? And back in the days, we were releasing with our solution a so-called accelerator, which is a storefront implementation, and we had vanilla accelerators for B2C commerce, for B2B commerce, but also some industry-specific accelerators like telco, retail, travel, utilities, and public sector accelerators. And the architecture we have chosen in the past there was to have the accelerators really running as Spring MVC solutions in the same environment, runtime environment like the Hybris platform. Again, some advantages, but if you want to do a simple change to your storefront, you had to redeploy really the full platform. In parallel, the commerce business logic, which we were exposing through accelerators, was also exposed through RESTful APIs for usage by mobile, by vending machines, or whatever other machinery in a multi-channel, omni-channel approach, right? So we had already that separation that our business logic was made available through RESTful APIs. So it was an easy step for us to decide, okay, let's decouple the storefront. And this is what we are doing right now, and we are going to release in this year. So our accelerator will become single-page applications, which are loosely coupled and just using RESTful APIs to interface with the business logic underneath. And that is then, of course, bringing us the advantage that you can now treat also all the changes you're doing to the storefront independently from your commerce business logic. You go into the direction of headless commerce, and that is again another step for the flexibility and the agility you need to still customize an enterprise commerce solution. So by that I covered the cloud readiness. So multiple steps to assure that the software can easily run and be operated in the cloud and still be customized. When we look at the scalability aspects, and just a simple calculation here, right? So in the assumption that a customer wants to achieve 100,000 orders per hour, right? And usually, I mean, only Amazon has a conversion rate of 25%, right? So the usual B2C shop will be somewhere between 2 and 5% on conversion rate, and that are even good numbers. So let's assume 5% conversion rate. So for 100,000 orders an hour, you need kind of roughly 2 million cards to be calculated. And if we assume that just 10% of your visitors are really putting an item into a cart, right? So you're dealing with 20 million visitors an hour. And that is really low-level, high-scale commerce system. Some of our customers are asking already today for 300,000 orders an hour. And for us, kind of the KPI we are measuring ourselves with is what Alibaba was achieving in single days this year, which was 30 million orders first hour. So quite impressive. And I mean, what we see here, that there is one particular service in the overall solution which has a high requirement on scale. And for me, that is another very good reason to decompose, right? To extract this particular functionality, because there is such a high requirement, such a high non-functional requirement on scale, that you want to particularly address scaling for this specific service, right? So what we have done is we build a card service, which is a microservice, which is a plug-and-play option for our commerce solution. So you can either use the card which is coming with the core commerce, or you can, by configuration, decide to take this scale out option. And then this service is self-sustained, just taking care of card calculation. It is running separately, so you can just scale out this service to its need. By separating it out, you can also have a different way how you persist, for example. If here our card is persisted in a relational database in a normalized fashion, in this space we can denormalize so that the access to the card information in the persistence is optimized to scale. So you have all those advantages, and by that then maybe your cluster for commerce can be sized differently, because before that you had to size your commerce cluster based on the most used service, which most probably will be the card service. And now you can cluster this one totally independent of the card service and just treat the scaling needs in the underlying infrastructure. So this is a way you can do it, but of course the downside to it is higher operational costs. Yeah. And you can only benefit from our point of view of this model if you have done it rightly when it comes to the automation of your cloud operations. And what is also very important, because you want to achieve agility in releasing, and you want to have more often releases in those environments, so you need to have a proper test coverage for your systems so that you can really achieve the very frequent releases into those environments. I mean, if we are looking from an aspect of agility very jealously to the 50 million releases Amazon is doing, they at the same time to achieve that had 2,000 people working in an Apollo project just looking at cloud automation and test coverage, right? So they put an infrastructure and a tooling in place to achieve that, which is quite impressive, and at the same time that's a necessary prerequisite. So we have decomposed the solution in functional islands. We have provided a mean how to augment the solution with microservices, which SAP Hybris is providing. Then the next step is also how do we make those customizations the customers and the SIs on behalf of the customers are doing more agile. What can we offer to our customers there? So what again, a release which is going to come out this year is the technical name. We do not have a marketing name yet for this solution. The technical name is the Service Factory. The Service Factory is an extension framework to our commerce solution, but eventually it's going to be used also by our marketing and services and sales solutions. So all our cloud solutions will be able to be extended through the Service Factory. And what are we doing here? So we have an installation in the cloud of enterprise commerce, and you might have different versions of it with production and staging and dev. And then we put aside the Service Factory, and the Service Factory is a runtime environment for microservices, which is pre-integrated to the commerce solutions. It is pre-integrated in the means of that authentication is taken care of, and the endpoints are made available in this sandbox, and you can just focus on your business logic because of all the communication to the commerce solution we take care. What it's also bringing is you have foundational service you can use, so publish subscribe mechanism, but also an environment for executing lambdas. And the intention is that in this environment you can mesh up services. You can of course call our RESTful APIs from commerce and use those. But you can also call your own microservices you have built. You can, because the enterprise commerce solution is going to send events to this environment. So business events like customer created, order placed, maybe even cart abandoned, right? So those events are going to be sent into this environment, and you can trigger by those events your lambdas, do within your lambdas whatever business logic you want, by still being able to access the business logic within enterprise commerce and maybe send some data back into this environment. So that is all possible by this Lambda execution environment. And you can also build your microservices, which the biggest difference there is you might have backing services, so those microservices might come with logic, but also with its own persistence and be self-sustained microservices. And in addition to having access to the commerce solution, you can we are going to expose in a service repository based on the open broker repository technology also services from other vendors. So being it maybe sub-cloud platform, of course, because we are an SAP house, but also Amazon AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, those services might be made available and might be easily accessible in these environments. And by that, we consider that we put a nice sidecar alongside the commerce solution to do customizations, which are now fully and completely loosely coupled, right? So by doing so, we consider that it might be possible for the customer as an option to not customize a hybrid commerce solution at all anymore. And then we are really looking at getting an enterprise commerce solution as a SaaS application, where we can take care as a software vendor for all the upgrades of the solution, right? Because there is no risk anymore as long as our RESTful APIs stay stable, and that is a lot easier to achieve than every Java method. By decoupling the storefront, of course, in the storefront you have the options to use the REST APIs from hybrid commerce, but you can easily also consume services you created in the service factory. With the eventing mechanism, there is a business integration available to you too, right? Because you can be really reacting to events, but that would be a really self-sustained separate solution. And of course, hybrid commerce would run in the cloud, the service factory is running in the cloud, the storefront is running in the cloud, so it's a fully cloud-based solution there. So to wrap up, what was our path from being an on-premise provider to move the solution into the cloud? Important was to containerize the solution, right? So embracing Docker and Kubernetes as an infrastructure choice. And then we invested heavily in cloud automation, and we provide as a software vendor the software lifecycle tooling for our customers to handle operations. We decomposed the monolith by two ways, by functional islands, which is more service-based, but also by augmenting the solution with the use of microservices. And then we also added the ability for customer to in an agile way, extend the functionality, customize the functionality in an own sandbox environment by using extension framework provided by us, and which is pre-integrated and pre-connected to the systems. That's about it from my side, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have. Yes, please. So the question is, how do we assure performance between the core system and the peripheric services which are in the service factory? I mean, one important thing is by being Dockerized and Kubernetes, you just gain with the whole infrastructure a level of scaling, right? You go into the direction of elastic scaling, and so you can react to volume scale requirements more easily, right? You can scale in, out the environments, and that is an easy task. So our experience is, of course, that the customers have built with Hybris their core commerce business in this monolithic application, and they most usually don't want to touch that anymore, right? Because there is where the transactions are coming through, and they want to maybe test some new innovations out in a microservices world, where what we sometimes see is that it is built maybe in a first attempt in a microservice world, and you can still have the option because it is quite cheap. So the TCO of building out a customization in a microservice world is not that expensive. And if that is really working, they sometimes still consider to pull that code into the core if it's essential to them. But from a general performance aspect, I don't see any risk, right? So microservices are optimized also for the scale in, scale out use cases. So also those microservices shouldn't be a detriment to performance. Yeah, I mean that is the whole kind of main technical paradigm, that you are really having a smaller, finer-grained service taking care of one particular use case, and you can really particularly address the performance need of that service with that microservice, because it's not just embedded in a bigger application. So from my point of view, the promise of a microservice is to take care of scalability anyway. Okay? Good. Yes, please. So strategy in the means of mm-hmm. 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 So the question, to repeat, is what strategy and what tooling does SAP Hybris offer for microservice developments? And YaaS has been mentioned. So Hybris is a service, and the abbreviation is YaaS. So Service Factory is, at the end of the day, Hybris is a service, right? So the end of the next iteration of the Hybris as a service environments from a technical extension perspective is the Service Factory. If you are familiar to YaaS, we had as part of YaaS a marketplace where we, but also partners, were supposed to provide their services to API-based consumption. And this YaaS marketplace has been elevated within SAP to an SAP-wide marketplace, and it's not just coming from SAP Hybris anymore, but we launched this year in February, and we are going to do a big launch at Sapphire in June for the Venetia marketplace, where we are going to offer consumption-based usage of APIs coming from the whole SAP world, really metered consumption, where our customers can buy a credit. Let's say the customer buys 100,000 euro API consumption per year, and then the metering is ticking when he's really accessing those APIs. And of course, that then is available with the full SAP Cloud Platform development environment infrastructure, right? So you can place those services you have built on the SAP Cloud Platform into this Venetia marketplace. Okay, for the Service Factory, we are a bit more flexible in the choices of languages you are using to develop, right? So you have seen Lambda as an option also, so you can use serverless functions to customize. But we are not focusing there on development tooling. We are more focusing on runtime environment for those extensions. Okay? Good. Are there any other? Yes, please. Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Sure, sure. Because I mean, it's clear, right? You can sell a car, yeah, but you could start selling also tires and doors, and then the price is becoming. If you just want the tires, you just pay for the tires. And from a pricing perspective, we definitely want to get also in customer segments where we haven't been before as SAP. That is definitely the direction. Though at the end of the day, we provide those offerings really with enterprise support, right? So no change on that approach, but it will open up some different customer segments to us at SAP by going that way, definitely. Yes. So the question is if you have a roadmap for those changes. Yes. So we at SAP Hybris, we always have a roadmap for the next 12 months where we are kind of giving the direction where we're going, and usually we have yeah, per quarter at least one release, and moving to the cloud now, especially for our SaaS solutions, we are going to move, of course, also where the whole industry is going in a more frequent releases, and those can be seen. We are working at SAP also to become more open how we make those information available, because usually you either need to be a partner or a customer to have access to those information. So we are working also to provide those information more openly to the whole community. You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes, please. Okay, so the question is if you are using our card service already on production side and are we scaling up? So the answer there is we had one customer particularly who has calculated that in 2020 with the current architecture of card based on relational databases, they are going to hit with their growth limitation on the database side. Even they were running on a high scaling database, but they knew that they will not be able to cover with that environment. So what we have done is from a product side, we supported them to do a proprietary implementation of this card service in that customer environment, and that was successful. How they are scaling, I would have to ask our chief architect who is sitting here, how that is working. But at the end of the day, after doing that with a particular customer, we took all the know-how we gained there because it was a co-innovation with them, and we are right now productizing this approach. So it's not available. So our productized card service is not yet in production at any customer. Okay. Maybe one other remark. So that card service is going to be running really completely multi-cloud. So the architecture, I don't see a real limitation there anymore, right? Because as the persistence will not limit the card. Then on the business logic side, that can be scaled out infinitely, because this is how it is architected from the very beginning. So as long as the load balancer is working properly, I don't see limits, to be honest. Yeah. It's just how many physical resources you are underpinning. Okay, any other question? Then thank you very much for joining me this early after a party, and I hope you enjoy the remaining Friday here at Code Talks. See you soon.